Starting then. Brilliant, right. A very warm welcome to Tomasz in what is, I think, the fourth in our Agile speaker series. So thank you very, very much for agreeing to come and talk to the community today. Tomasz, just so you all know, has been an absolute superstar and done a number of projects for the STA. He worked with a lovely charity called Comedy with Confidence, look at helping them put in a LMS system with Moodle. You did a great bit of work with the Eden Project communities. They do what they call a big lunch normally, which historically has always been in person, but obviously due to the pandemic, had to shift online, and we're super nervous about a number of things and how that would impact what they did. So I think that was kind of quite a limited time frame. We really did have to get as far as possible with them as we could. So Tomasz is, and the modular team actually have done a huge amount of work within the community. So a very warm welcome to Tomasz, who has also in his career accelerated over the period. So you know, I'm sure there's questions on product ownership, but equally modular that you all may have as well. All right, enough from me. Over to you, Tomasz.
Thank you very much, Joanna. Again, hello to everybody on the call. Thanks for joining us on this wonderful Friday lunchtime. If you want to have a lunch during our call, I will not feel offended. Just eat. You can also eat with your camera on. I don't mind that as well. It's all about comfort. It's all about me delivering some value to you. I would like that sort of time to be very interactive. It's not me delivering a lecture at university. It is me talking to you about my experience, right? I've got only about 85 slides or so, jam-packed with text. Nah, there's only 10 of them. Don't worry, I don't bore you to death. But the way those slides are structured, I've tried to pick up and select some of the spotlights from product ownership, things that are really, really important from my point of view. It's not a formal training, it's not PSPO, it's not certified Scrum, it's not certified product owner course. It is just a brain dump of a couple of things that I found very, very useful on the journey, and also some of those things that helped me progress my career and deliver great value to charities through STA, but also to my organizations that I work with. Now, I will share my screen with you. Bear with me, and hopefully we'll be able to see the slides very, very soon. Now, let me know if you can see the presentation on your screen. Perfect. The title page. Good stuff. So, according to Shakespeare, who asked to be or not to be, I ask you to product or not to product. It is quite an interesting question, because as you look through the journeys, you look through the commercial and a variety of companies that do think they do product. Some of them don't do product, some of them do money, but product is so much more than money, and I'll try to cover that in a second as well. I'll start with a quick story. I got this annoying habit every morning. I wake up at 6 a.m. or so, and then I need to have a drink. That drink is very special. It takes me about an hour every morning to prepare it. I need to make a bit of coffee, I need to make a bit of tea, I need to select some of the other ingredients to that drink. I need to warm some of them, I need to cool some of them, mix them in the right proportion, and mix them in the right order. It is a lengthy process, but it is absolutely magic. I mean, the drink, the outcome, it does give you energy. It fills you with passion, it fills you with enthusiasm, it fills you with everything. You're unstoppable, unbreakable, you can do whatever you want to do. It's just annoying that it takes an hour. Now, me having experience with product, I thought about how can I improve that process? How can I put some automation into that process? How can I make it quicker and easier and better? So I sat down and finally I got that light bulb moment. Why don't I create that ideal cocktail mixer? A mixer that will take the hour of my preparation and do it automatically for me. So I sat down, I spent many hours thinking about the ideal mixer, what it would need to do, how it would need to be constructed, what the outcome should be. I've then designed that together with my team. We've created a number of requirements or user stories, as I'll cover later on. We've spent many hours of our time trying to test that design, trying to make sure that everything is perfect. I formalized my recipe for that drink. We put some designs and some prototypes together. It all just made sense. Come on, I mean, imagine that. You've got a machine, right? That on a click of a single button, it gives you power for the full day. Wouldn't you like that? I mean, it's great. So I've spent a lot of money on that. I spent a lot of time on that, not only mine, but also my teams. I've created that machine. I prepared my wallet to become, thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker for all the money that I would collect on the sale of that product. But then, to my disappointment, I've sold only one of those products to myself. So yes, that's the journey of product, right? That's sometimes that you're faced with. You've got an idea, you try to get that idea implemented, and you end up being the only customer for that product, right? I'll cover that in more detail later on, but one of the lessons of this slide is think about stories. Whenever you talk to your customers, whenever you talk to your stakeholders, whenever you talk to your teams, think about how you can empower them. Think about how you can get them excited. Don't, sit down with them and speak, right, so the next feature that we need to deliver is just to add this extra red button in the bottom right corner of the app to do X, Y, and Z. Tell a story. Put some emotion into that. Make sure that they understand what is the outcome, and they will understand and they will remember it much more when you do it that way, rather than you just sit down with them and say, oh, this is what you need to do, right? Who am I? So I'm Tomasz. It's very good to see all your faces. It's good to meet you for those of you who I don't know just yet. I've been on the market for about 16 years, and I've not started in Credit Bank. I've started in McDonald's, but it's fast. I forgot about it, and it's not official. I've lasted a week in McDonald's, so it didn't exist. But my first proper job was in one of the banks in Poland when I started off as a sysadmin, trying to also be a help desk specialist, and then I moved over to be IT specialist. But then from there on, you will be able to see that I progressed into the product journey. And I've been in many areas of product, right? Business analysis, systems analysis, product ownership, product management. And whereas, some of those roles, they are not necessarily called product manager, business analysis is part of product, right? Test management is part of product. Software development is part of product, because all of those people involved in the product delivery, pretty much they are product owners to some extent. And yes, I know that Scrum methodology and Scrum Guide define very, very clearly what a product owner should do and who the product owner should be and what are the roles and responsibilities of a PO. But at the end of the day, as a product owner or sort of official product owner, would you like to work with a team that doesn't own the product themselves, that doesn't feel responsible for the product or accountable for the value that they deliver? Would you like to work with a team which is just a machine? Like, I'll do whatever you tell me, mate, and I don't care about it, right? Just tell me and I'll do it. Or would you rather work with a team who are excited about the product, who feel the value that they deliver? It's not always easy, right? Don't get me wrong, because it's easy to feel the value when you can use the product, right? When you deliver something, then you go out to do shopping, to eat something in a restaurant, and then you suddenly see your product being in use. Right, then you suddenly get your phone and you start saying, right, so that's the app that I've created. Let's try to order something through that. Sometimes the products that we create are not as sort of daily usage or popular to be used as others. But still, you need to feel the value, and you need to feel you're sort of related or connected with the product that you deliver, regardless of what you do with that product. So what is a product? This is the first open question to all of you. What do you think is a product? Any ideas that come to your mind? How could we define a product? What are the examples of products?
Yes, a solution to a problem.
Okay. Solution to a problem, that's one good one. Any other ideas?
A service that you're responsible for.
Okay. So we've got a solution to the problem, we've got a service. Anything else?
Something that delivers value to people. Something that they need.
Delivers value. That's a good one. I always like value. Anything else? So I've got a quiz for you. I'll show you a couple of pictures and I'll ask you to tell me whether this is a product or not a product. There will be a bit of blur moment, so you can think about what is going to be shown up on that picture, and then I'll ask you whether this is a product or not. So is this a product or not a product?
Do you want us to stick our hand up if it's yes or something like that? I'd say yes.
You can just shout, okay, this is a product, you say, good. I will not say whether this is a product or not until the very end, so there will be a bit of suspense moment.
I've got Stuart's with me. I don't know.
Is this a product?
Looks like it could be. Is it an order management system?
Something like that. I think it's a SAP, really, or Sage, something like that.
Okay.
Accountancy
Yes.
software.
Oh yeah, accountancy.
Is this a product?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now moving on. Is this a product? Okay, I can see some nods. Is this a product?
Yes. Ooh, are you going to have the latest one as well?
Probably not. Not yet, at least not today. And is this a product or not? Okay. What about this? A nut and bolt cat.
Where did you find that?
I don't know. Random Google search. Right. Is this a product?
No. Go on, somebody else join in. Otherwise you'll get bored of my voice. Asia, what do you think?
Are we asking about the group of policemen? Are we talking about the
policeman?
We're talking about the picture. And I'll let you interpret it the way you want to.
Oh yeah, true.
No,
So
I don't think that's a product.
Okay.
if a service is a product, they're providing some kind of service.
Okay. What about this one?
Surgery.
Delivering value.
No.
That's another service.
Mhm. What about this one? We all love it, says people. Do you want to have this car? No. Well, you won't. No. And the best at the end is this a product?
Turn it into a product to sell it.
Good. I think you made a number of very, very good calls. You said that product is the solution to a problem. You said that product is a service that we own, or a product is something that solves a problem and delivers value. And I think it very nicely summarizes what the product really, really is. A product can be something as tangible as a fork, right? Because you use the fork in order to feed yourself, right? You can use hands as well, but it's dirtier, it's less comfortable, it's less, it's not as good as using the fork, right? The calculator, the Facebook, and the Sage, they are all software products as well. You can't touch them, you can't feel them, you can't get them in your hand, but you can use them. And the output and outcome of you using those products or those things is a value to you, right? It does provide you value. It automates some mundane processes of, calculating tax or keeping in touch with your friends. Similarly, the Mars rover, it is a product. It is a very complex product compared to Facebook or compared to the calculator, right? But it is still a product. It combines, or it consists of many, many parts that come into that product, such as nuts and bolts. But the Mars rover is a product. Now, nut, you can think about that, the nut by itself, if you have just a nut and nothing else, it is of no value to you, because you can, well, possibly, if you're creative, you could use it to be, I don't know, some sort of whatever, pot or cat or whatever else. But the nut by itself, unless you put it in action, it doesn't necessarily provide any value, right? It is an ingredient of something that you can use to provide a value in the form of a nut and bolt cut, for example, right? You can argue what's the value of the nut and bolt cut, well, maybe aesthetic, or maybe, I don't know, a tool to harm other people, right? Whatever. Going down the line, police. This is an interesting one. Actually, you were right saying that they provide service and this is a value. The police force in itself, it is not really a product, but the processes that they use to safeguard us and to make sure that we are all safe and secure, this by all means is a product, right? Because this is a service. And the outcome of the service is a value in itself. So the service of the police being there and the police acting on our behalf, it is very, very much a product. Surgery. This is a very interesting one, right? Because you can think in 2 dimensions about the surgery. You can think about this very surgery. I'm operating the heart of Mr. Smith. And you can think about the surgery, say, open heart operation, all in all, right? It is, imagine you've got a situation where you have a cup, right? A cup as an object, and a cup as an idea, and a cup as a desire, and as a sort of very generalized thing, and then a single occurrence of that cup. All in all, this operation or surgery, open heart surgery, it is a process, and this delivery or this particular single open heart surgery on Mr. Smith, it is the occurrence of this process. But the service is a product, right? Because we are still talking about the service. Similarly, the sales process, me trying to sell you a car, me trying to sell you my idea of the product, me trying to sell you the fact that you need to be back home at 10 p.m., me trying to sell you that it's good to be healthy, etc., etc., etc. It is a process, and this is a product as well, because at the end of the day, it does give you some value. And the flower pots. Yes, it is interesting because the flower itself, it's not really a product, is it? Because you can't create it in a sense, you can seed it and then it will grow by itself, but you're not the person growing the flower, right? But you are creating the product where the flower is just one constituent of the product. You're putting the flower together, you're putting some compost together, you're putting the pot together, and this is the product, right? So this entire composition, it is a product. The flower itself, maybe not necessarily. It's similar to the nuts, right? If you use the nuts in the right way, they will provide you value and they will be product, but it, by itself, not necessarily. Does it all, guys, make sense? Do you have any questions? Cool.
Me anyway. Hopefully I'm speaking on behalf of the group.
Let's move on. Any questions in the meantime, just shout. I'll try and give you a few minutes at the end to ask any questions, but yeah, we shall see how it goes. Expectations versus reality. I'm going to show you a very popular and very, very old doodle, which scarily enough, it's still valid, right? In your role as a product owner, you need to think about the product holistically, right? You need to understand what the customer really wants. You need to understand how to translate that requirement or that expectation into something that your teams can deliver in the form of software, tangible product, service, whatever. And then you need to be able to verify the value of that product. And does this product meet the reality? Does this product meet the expectation? And how can we use that product? It's going back to the original story with the ideal cocktail mixer, right? We do have a product. We've created something which looks nice, which is usable to one person, but it's not necessarily what the market expected, right? So the product ownership, it's not only about creating user stories and managing backlog. It's much wider than that. One of the problems with the product roles is that many organizations define product ownership, product management in slightly different ways, right? In some cases, product owner is the sponsor of the product, right? Is the C-level exec who is paying the money or paying the bills for that product. In other organizations, product owner covers the entire spectrum of product lifecycle, right? So product owners are responsible for doing a bit of market research, of then creating the backlog, of going through this initiation process, delivery process, and then estimation and the value and evaluation process. In other organizations, there is a split between product management and product ownership. where product managers do go and they do this initial bit of the process. They then hand it over to the product owner, who takes the well-crafted initiative, translates that into technical language, oversees the delivery, and then goes to the market. And then product managers go back into that process and then try to, remarket and market the product and assess the value and all that good stuff. But regardless of the definition of a product owner and who the product owner is, to me, every single product person should be able to do pretty much everything of it, right? Because if you want to stay focused only on creating user stories, you will have a very, very limited view of the world. And what helps is to understand what happens up front, what happens then, and what happens at the end of the journey. Because knowing that and understanding how it all hangs together, it makes you truly exceptional. And because you are then able to get whatever the customers tell you that they want, properly understand that, go to the why, go to the root cause of the problems. And imagine a situation where a customer or either internal or external customer comes to you and they say, I want that extra field in the report, right? To report a date of birth of a customer or whatever this is. If you don't ask the question, why do you want it? Then you will not be able to come up to the right solution. Right? Then yes, you will add that extra field. You will be able to translate some data in your system to that particular field, and that's it. That's the story done. But maybe the problem is absolutely in a different place. Maybe the problem is that the customer doesn't know how to use the system and where to find the date of birth, which is already captured. Maybe the problem is in data quality, that we are sending the date of birth, but it's always empty. Maybe the problem is in some translation or transformation of the messages that the data of birth gets lost. So it's very, very easy to go out to the market and to go out to your customers and potential users, and then just deliver what they think they need. But when you then deliver that to them, and when you go live with this thing, you end up in a situation that you have delivered something that does not meet their expectations. And they are surprised and they don't want to pay you, because why should they? So imagine that you go out and you talk to the customer, right? And the customer tells you, I want this, right? So we've got a nice swing. We've got 3 levels of seats, and that's what they want. So what you do is you, as a product owner or project leader in this case, you understand it as a swing, right? I mean, you've got 2 ropes, you've got the sitting, and that's it. You just need to fix it to the tree, and it will work. And that's what you go and say to your delivery team. And then delivery, whenever you deliver any product, there are always dependencies, obstacles, legacy processes, legacy functions, and just the way the current system operates. And it's difficult to change it, right? Because if you wanted to change the entire ecosystem or the entire platform or the entire everything, it will take a lot of time. So instead of building the product as the product owner described that, engineers always find those fancy creative ways of delivering something that will be similar to what the customers want. But this something doesn't necessarily deliver value, right? And sometimes it's even dangerous. Now, when it comes to writing the program, it's even more complex, right? Because, oh my God, this unit test doesn't work, or there is that other service that doesn't really work with me, so I'll just take a couple of shortcuts and those deadlines. Or I can't write a high quality code because I need to deliver it tomorrow. So if I want to keep to the deadlines, I will need to cut the corners and deliver something, and this is the something. But when it comes to sales, then it's always the case that you will get the best vacations of your life. You'll get the best car of your life. You'll get the best swing of your life, right? And that's what the customers are being sold when it goes to the market implementation. Documentation, well, what's that? Basically, we have no time, never, for any documentation. We just don't do it because it's a waste of time. So, and everyone knows how to use it anyway, right? It's all in the code. You just go to the code base and you know anything. So why bother documenting? Installation and implementation, let's do something, right? I mean, again, deadlines, backlog of things to do, constant pressure, constant chasing. Is it working? It is working. It's fine. Let's implement that. Invoice. Well, we've spent months and months and months working on this product. So we have to get the return of investment very, very, very soon. And this is the amount of the invoice. Support, I'm sorry, it is a feature, not a bug. This is how this product is supposed to work, right? Do you know that? It is a backend feature. And what's the difference between the backend feature? Pretty much none. It's just how you describe it to the customer. And then finally, what the customer really needed. So there are so many steps on the journey between you going out to the customer, talking to the customer, and delivering the product that can go wrong. And it is very, very often, and from my experience, it happens 9 times out of 10, or even 99 out of 100, that the customers are not getting what they want because the customers don't know what they want. They don't know how to describe it. They have a need, they have a desire, they have a feeling that I want a something, but they can't articulate it well enough. And it's up to the product people to understand it and to really get to the shoes of the customer, understand the customer, build up good and proper rapport in relationship with the customer to make them open up and discuss their problems, discuss their life, discuss their expectations, talk about their day-to-day experiences, maybe do a bit of shadowing of the current process and understand firsthand what are the problems that we're trying to solve, rather than relying on, I just want this extra red feed added to the app. Make sense? Any questions? One of the very, very, very smart guys on the planet when it comes to products, the CEO of Zappos, has once said that chase the vision, not the money. The money will end up following you. And I know that this is sometimes it's a cliche, but it's so true in the product world, isn't it? Sometimes it's all about the invoice. Sometimes it's all about what we'll get in return of us delivering something. But we really forget about the value. That we really forget about why are we here, and that we really care about, well, when will we be able to get our expenses back? And it's not about it. It is really not about it. Now, when you are in a world of product, unavoidably you will be faced with jargon, with a lot of words that sometimes do make sense, sometimes don't make sense, but more often than not are understood by different people or are understood by different people in different ways. So a quick solution to that, we've got a couple of those words, or maybe slightly more than a couple. We've got MVP. So MVP stands for the minimum valuable product. In reality, MVP is just a bare bones of stuff. So thanks very much, mate. Thanks for delivering that. Thanks for your effort. Why so late? Why so expensive? And I can't use it because it's bare bones, right? But the MVP, and I'll talk about MVP in a second, a bit more in depth, because I think it's a very, very important concept. The MVP is about us delivering something of a value to the customer, right? You can't just deliver a prototype, right, or a wheel and say this is an MVP, because the customer can't do anything with it, right? They can't translate that thing that you have delivered into the outcome or the value that they really expect. So MVP, the word that is key and critical in this sense is valuable. Whatever you do must solve a problem. Whatever you do must be of value. Whatever you do must improve the experience or the life of the customer. The next one is MLP, which is the minimum lovable product. What is the difference between MVP and MLP? Is that the customers are able to fall in love with that product. That the customers really want it, the customers really desire it, the customers are willing to pay for it, and they're excited to be using your product. They know that, maybe we are not able to deliver or to address every single problem on the planet that you've got to that product. Oh my God, it is amazing. I mean, it is saving us so much time, it's saving us so much money. That's what we needed. That's even better than that. And that's what MLP is. And we all should strive and go towards delivering MLP rather than MVP. And EP, yeah, this is the free word thing, right? What is it? It translates into the minimum experimentable product. So what you sometimes want to do is you want to prove or disprove your assumption or your idea very, very quickly. In this case, you get together with your team, you build a very, very quick and dirty prototype. You go, you deliver that prototype, or you go to the market with that prototype just to see whether customers will want it. just to understand if there is any market for that, right? You are not expected to make any money on the back of that prototype. You're not expected to bring any value to that prototype or buy that prototype. It is just used for experimentation. It is just used for you to understand if what you're doing is the right thing to do, and if you are on the right way of delivering the value, or whether you're completely missing the boat, okay? And don't ever try to sell MEP. Don't you dare getting a penny out of MEP, because you won't. And even if you will, you need to refund it, okay? ROI, that's a very common term in product. Well, I just want my money back. So I've given you that £1 million in investment, right? I've paid for all the squads or the teams. When will I get it back? And what's the investment? And sorry, what's the interest I'll get on the back of it? I want to have some proper return. And you will hear about ROI very, very, very often in the product world or in any commercial world to that sense. And finally, NPS. NPS, it is a net promoter score. It is one of the ways we measure customer satisfaction. One of the problems with us understanding the customers and understanding the value of the product is that we don't measure it. We don't know what is the perception of that product to the customers. We measure it by speaking to the customers. Sometimes we measure it sometimes by the number of downloads. We measure it sometimes by some of the metrics hidden within the product to measure the time spent on a particular screen or whatever else, or drop us off the journey. But what we really need as well is a way of measuring customer satisfaction and how satisfied the customers with the product are. One of the gotchas when measuring the value of the product is sometimes your product is the only product on the market, right? And sometimes your product is used by the customers because they have no other choice. I do remember, I come from Poland, and I sometimes fly back to Poland for every now and then. And I remember once in the past, the only airline that were supporting the journey between Edinburgh, or I think it might have been Glasgow, and the city in Poland was Ryanair. And I had no other choice. So I had to use Ryanair. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Ryanair. I just had to use it if I wanted a direct flight. And then I've seen an interview with the CEO of Ryanair, and this was the tough time for Ryanair, where the customers were saying that they are dissatisfied, that the service the Ryanair is providing is bad. And the CEO on the TV said, I don't remember the exact wording, but basically the message was, well, my service cannot be that bad if people are still using that, right? You're having more and more and more customers every year. So, I mean, you're stupid. My service is good because customers are using it. Well, yes, customers are using that because they have no other choice. And remember that this is a very dangerous place to be in, because very, very soon there will be another company providing the same service on the same route for cheaper, which will be much better. In this case, you will lose all the customers you've got at the moment. I promised you to say a bit more about MVP, right? MVP is a bit of a tricky concept, right? Because the idea behind MVP is to deliver value to the customers very, very quickly at a very, very low cost, so that the customers can have something of value to them right now. Okay. The misunderstanding of the concept of MVP is about how do we define that value. So imagine a car, and you might know this concept as well. In the car, we've got many, many parts, right? We've got steering wheel, we've got wheels, we've got bonnets, we've got everything, right? Engine. If you want to design and deliver a car, one of the ways of splitting the delivery into MVP is to focus on delivering a tire. I've delivered a tire, so I've delivered a part of the product, which to me is MVP, because I've delivered something, right? It is a tangible thing that I'm giving to you. So from my perspective, I'm done because I've delivered that. And then I will deliver you the second wheel and maybe a bit of suspension. And there you go. This is phase 2. This is my MVP plus, right? And then you're getting, the upper part of the car. So you now have wheels. You now have the upper part of the car. You don't have steering wheel. You don't have seats. You don't have engine. But this is MVP plus. It is version 3 of my product. Yay, amazing. And only after 45 years of difficult product work, you are coming up with a car. Now, is this an MVP? Is the wheel that we are showing on the slide an MVP? What do you think? It is something we've done It is something we have delivered. So it must be.
I would
MVP.
I'll say phase 4. If someone expects a car, then that's the minimum that they'd expect.
Very good. Wheel is not an MVP. When you want to understand what is an MVP, you must ask yourself a question: does this address the problem that the customer has? The problem the customer has when they want a car is they want to commute from point A to point B quicker than on foot, right? If they have a wheel, can they use that to commute from point A to point B quicker than on foot? But maybe if they're acrobats, possibly, but it's not the point of it, right? So it does not deliver any value. It is just a part of a product. And very often in the world of the business, this is what we define as MVP. We deliver something that is not usable, that doesn't solve any problem, doesn't deliver any value, but we classify as MVP because it's out there and customers can use it, although they can't. Now, instead of sort of following this particular chain of events, the way of delivering and understanding MVP is, first of all, to deliver a scalable, right? You are giving the customer a way to commute and to move from point A to point B quicker than on foot. It's maybe not as comfortable as car, it's maybe not as safe and not as fast and not as good as car, but it does deliver some value. You are able to go faster. You are able to use less energy to do that. Then you're getting a scooter. Right? This is MVP plus, because again, you are improving on what you have built already in order to come up with a better version of the value. And although the customers are not happy, they are not as annoyed as in version 1 of the pseudo MVP world. But then you're talking about the bike, right? It's even better. It always delivers the value. It is an incremental delivery of the value, and with every single thing that you deliver, the customer gets better solutions. The customer gets better product, and the value is higher. Then you deliver them a motorbike, and then finally they've got a car. And this is MVP. So the MVP is not a wheel. This is just a part. MVP is something that solves a problem for the customers. If you, for example, think about social media, right? The problem that customers had that they might have even not realized is they wanted to be in touch with their peers, right? They wanted to keep in touch with their friends and build new relationships online, etc., etc., etc. So instead of, if you follow the first approach of a wheel and suspension and etc., etc., you would have built a wall where you can post your updates, right? But the facility to connect to others won't be there. Well, you've got the value, you've got a nice UI, you've got a nice thing that you can share on your wall, but no one's seeing that. The first sort of aspect or iteration of Facebook should be, let's enable that communication. Let's be that chat. Let's be that connection and not the wall. Any questions to MVP?
No, I think, is there anything, do you need to know your client quite well, don't you, to be able to define this though?
This is one of the jobs of the product person. You need to know your client well, absolutely, yes. You need to identify yourself with your client. You need to give them your heart. You need to be part of their life. You need to speak with them. You need to, live side by side with them. You really need to understand them. You need to understand their pain points. And only then you will be able to define, to deliver the proper MVP. Of course, yes.
How much harder is it, Tomasz, to deliver an MVP when it's something completely revolutionary and new that no one has ever seen before versus like an incremental improvement?
It is harder, but I think in this case, it is even more important to focus on MVP, right? Because if this is something revolutionary, it's usually something expensive that you're trying to beat, right? And you need to spend a lot of time and effort and money and blah, blah, blah to do that. So instead of investing all that money up front and coming up with this final product, race car, whatever, you want to test it. You want to understand if there will be some demand or any demand for that revolution. And you want to sort of drip feed that value and see, well, do you really want to chat with the other person as with social media? Or with the, with whatever else is there on the market? Do you really want to have that, that facility to make payments without any engagement of your bank between peer and peer using whatever else? Do you really want it? Because what's the point of me delivering that if you don't want it? And very often people don't realize that they want it. very often, even if you give a small value to them, they don't really understand that value. And it is difficult. And sometimes you need to take a leap of faith, trying to say, well, you don't get it just yet, but I've got a feeling, and this is my real, straight from the heart and gut feel that you will love it, because I can see the problems that you're struggling with, right? Which you might not do. The other way of thinking about it, right, is, and this is a bit of trickier one, but sometimes the role of a product person is to create the products for the customers by providing them solutions, right? If the customer, so I'm not too sure whether that quote is accurate or not. It is quoted very, very often, but apparently Henry Ford, back in early days, said that if he asked customers what they wanted, they would have said to him, I want faster horses, right? And they didn't think about the car. I mean, what is an automobile? What it is, oh my God. And in this case, again, we're going back to that concept of the wheel versus car and the board versus car. Imagine that Henry Ford, they have not delivered the entire car at first, right? The current version of the Ford. They have delivered something that they could have delivered fairly reasonably quickly with the technology that they had. And they rolled that out. They said, or they've seen, this is good. So they've continued the delivery. They built the entire product lines to deliver those cars. There was a problem with those product lines because they were not configurable enough, right? So it's very, very soon after, they've run into, major problems of customization and personalization because they couldn't keep up with the client demand. But sometimes customers don't see the solutions. They don't see the value that your product can add. And this is always a challenge. And you need to be very, very brave if you want to do it. Right. I know I've got 15 more minutes and 17 more slides, well, maybe two. But let's talk about the delight. One of the tasks of the product owner is to deliver the value to the customer, as I've been repeating that over and over and over again. Have you ever seen that diagram, which is the Kano model? Right? It's using the Kano model, you can understand where your product is, right? Whether or where your feature is, or where your initiative is, right? If it's a must-have functionality, if it's performing well, or if it's attractive. The main point behind that is that if you take a pen, right, a standard pen, it is an indifferent pen. This pen is exactly the same as this pen, or almost, right? But the value is exactly the same. So if you want to enter the market of pen production, and you start delivering yet another pen, this will be indifferent, right? If you're delivering an indifferent product, you don't, or you should not expect any uptake on that product. That's why the customers should be moving away from the current solutions that they're using to your solution, which doesn't provide any difference or any extra value. Whenever you deliver a product, yes, you do need to understand the market. You do need to understand the expectations and needs of your customers, and you always need to think about how can I delight them? What can I do in the product that they don't expect? What can I make in the product and deliver them in the product that will make them go like, oh my God, that's Jesus, the genius, right? Because if you get that wow moment in the customers, they will pay you whatever price you want for that particular thing. But if you're indifferent, you will lose them, right? So in different companies, in different products, simply they don't exist. They don't. If you're delivering a product which is performing well, which is on this orange straight, it's fine. It is better than indifferent, but you are relying on a lot of sort of sales strategy and marketing strategy to attract the customers to your product for them to be able to move from their current provider of the solution, right? What you really want to do is you want to think about what will delight the customers and really focus on that. And sometimes the delighters are very, very small. Like, I don't know, if you go to a restaurant and the music is very nice in the background, versus if you go to the restaurant and there's just a crowd of people, it's dirty, and etc., right? Just small things make the huge difference. What you really want to avoid is to find yourself below indifferent, or even worse, below the red must be line. The red must be line, it describes everything which is basic for the customer to use the product. So again, going back to the social media example, the basic functionality is for me to connect with others. If I don't have it, I'm not social media, right? And yeah, that just doesn't work. Don't be afraid to delight. Sometimes it takes a lot of courage to be the first, and it's going back to Jean's point, right? So you don't always know what to delight the customer, and sometimes you need to take the leap of faith and try things out. But that's the point. Don't afraid to try out. Don't afraid to try and fail, and then learn from that failure. The biggest mistakes we are doing is we are repeating the same actions over and over and over again, and to expect different results every time. If you do A, B, and C, and you get X, Y, and Z, when you do A, B, and C next time, you also get X, Y, and Z. You will not get D, E, and F. You need to do something else in order to get different result. So try out new things, fail fast, learn fast, improve fast, iterate fast, and delight the customers. But there is just one gotcha with the delight. Do you know what it is? No? No one? Delighters don't last long. Why? Well, because if you do delight the customer, it takes very, very short period of time for the customer to get acquainted to the delight, and this delight in this case moves back to the basic needs. We have been delighted with the cars many, many years ago. Now the car is just a car, right? Now you need to put something extra in the car to be able to delight the customer. You can't just say that, a simple, small car is delightful. It's a delighter. For some it might be, don't get me wrong, absolutely yes. But for others, it is just a car. It is not a delighter. And then you need to think about, so I've done that delighter, which is now a basic expectation. What can I do next? Well, how can I get to the next level of my product delivery? What is the best next thing to do? How can I delight the customers even more? Okay. Any questions on this one?
I even like the use of your language, delight, actually, Thomas, because I think it's almost when you sort of personalize it. Delight is a lot more of a personal word than just like or adopt or some of the kind of jargon you hear in business. Delight is that really for me resonates. But yeah,
that's a very good point, Joanne. I think businesses are scared to use the word delight because it's unknown and it's sort of obligatory. If I want to delight the customer, I must be extraordinary. And I don't know how to do it. And maybe I don't even care about it. And this is a very dangerous place to be if I don't care about the customers, if I don't want to delight them. So yes, delight is a difficult word, but it's super important. And this is the word that does make a difference. But if you start to delight, you will need to continue delighting the customers because the customers will soon start expecting to be delighted frequently and often. Now, I want to end up today's session with a quick quiz for all of you. We've got 8 more minutes. So usually I would probably ask someone to organize a couple of breakout rooms and have a 10-minute discussion. But let's try to use that entire or all of you to have that chat. Imagine a situation, pretty much going back to my original story about the ideal cocktail mixer, when you had a great idea, right? You did have a great idea. You think that it will be magical. You've gone out to the customers, you've verified your idea with the customers, and they said it's exciting. I love it. I would be great. I would be super happy to pay for that product. Right? You kept active engagement with the customers. You kept them informed about the progress of your product. You managed to maintain that momentum with the customers, right? And you managed to maintain that excitement as well. You expect massive success because what can go wrong? I mean, you have a great idea. You have verified that great idea with the customers. You have maintained that excitement all over the journey. You go to the market. So what can go wrong, right? But actually, when you go to the market, nobody really wants to purchase it, and then you're surprised because, well, all the customers I've been speaking with, they were really ready to pay for it. They were ready to get out their credit card and pay for it. And this might even having the modular branded debit card, right? But it's not the case. Why? I've got 2 questions to you. Why this might happen? Why is it the situation that you have kept your customers engaged and informed? Why have the customers been excited, but then when you deliver the product, they don't pay for it? And finally, what can you do to prevent it from happening? So let's start with the why. Do you have any ideas in terms of why this might be the case?
Competitors offering it free?
Possibly. Mm-hmm.
How well did you choose your population of customers? Are they representative of the
Very
rest of the
good.
world?
Yeah. Any other ideas?
Lots of people sit and wait.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything else?
You haven't taken any orders yet? Anything with regards to somebody just putting down a bit of a marker and say, yep, we'll commit to that. So there could be a lot of them, different companies being kept happy with the potential product, but they're just at the same time just sitting there and we'll just see what happens.
Yeah. And what can you do to prevent that? What is there anything you could do to minimize the risk of such dreadful scenario to happen? How do you think?
Well, there's the creating a sense of identity with the product before it launches, basically. So that brand stickiness. If you've already got existing customers and you hopefully have evangelists on your side already, so the real question becomes, why are they not talking about this? Or if they are, where are they talking about it?
Yeah. Any other ideas?
There's no process in place to move people from one product to another.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're all right. And I do resonate with everything you said, and I agree with it. The other thing that we need to remember, though, is that people are nice. And this is very, very bad thing, right? Because what it means is that you went to the customers, you showed them your product, you've done it yourself, so you know it happened. You asked them for opinion, they said, it's amazing, it's absolutely smashing. But they don't mean it because they don't want to hurt you. They don't want to hurt your feelings. They think that if I say that something's wrong with that product, well, it might not be taken too well, right? He's just a nice guy, so why should I say that this product is bad? It's good, it's really good, I really like it. But they don't pay it. They're biased, right? They don't want to hurt you, which is silly, but it's so true, so true. And the only way and the only sort of moment when you realize that you have fallen into that positivity trap is when you have got no purchases of your product. One of the things that, and I'm not saying that there is a very good solution for that problem, right? But one of the things that I sometimes tended to do in the past was to build that prototype of the product, build a product that doesn't necessarily work, but build this prototype or build a sales journey that would end up with the customer providing the card details or ending up on a screen for the customer to provide the card details, right? Ask the customer to sign up for the newsletter. Ask the customer to, give you something that they feel valued, that is valuable for them, even if the product doesn't exist. In this way, you will be able to really understand whether the customers will pay later on. And I know it's slightly different in the world of business-to-business transactions, right? Because it's a completely different beast, right? You go out to the businesses, you've got the contracts signed up, you've got the commitment. It's different. But in business-to-customer or consumer business market, you need to really understand very, very quickly if the customers will be paying for that. Because what's the point in delivering a lot of value, but value that will be too expensive for the customers to pay for, or value that will not be a value when you go live because new competition will come up. Indeed. You made it. You made the journey through all the 85 slides that I've created. Thank you very much. If you've got any questions, you can email me on that mail or contact me on LinkedIn. I'll stop sharing my screen right now, and I will ask you if there are any questions, if there are any points that you wanted to discuss. Over to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Thomas. That was brilliant, and I loved some of the diagrams you had as well. Definitely, I want a roller coaster, not a tire on a tree. Does anybody have any questions for Thomas? I know I'll give a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to
I know as a product owner, you're saying that, Thomas, that you should be aware of every element of the design and build and process associated with that product. But is there, as a product owner, are there any other roles within the Agile methodology that the product owner leans on more so than others, or is it just a case of you have to be on top of everything?
I think the answer to this question will depend on what you want to achieve, right? If you look at the Agile methodology or the Scrum framework, you will see that there is one role called product owner, and there's another role called a Scrum team member, right? Because what Scrum sort of asks you to do is to create those multifunctional and teams which are self-manageable and self-contained that deliver value. Now, if you are working in an organization right now and you want to get into the product, right, or do whatever else, just show yourself. Go to the people who are in charge of the product, show that this is my idea. And this is I'll digress for a second, but I'll come back to you, Stuart, to your question in a second. Very, very often, one of the mistakes that organizations do is that they rely on innovation to happen from outside. They go to the customers and they ask them about ideas to innovate. Whereas all the best innovation ideas sit within the organization. They sit within the people who work with that product day in, day out. They sit with the engineers, they sit with customer support, they sit with testers, because they know the platform, they know what they are doing, and they know how to improve it. So don't be afraid. I know it might feel uncomfortable at first, but think about how you can improve your product and just shout about it. Go to whoever you want to go and start building those relationships as well internally. Try and show your ideas, try to show your creativity, try to show your enthusiasm to the product. And then naturally you will start transitioning into the product, because people will want your input and people will want you to be the driving force behind the product. Does it answer your question, Stuart?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. Any more? You might be on mute, Joanna.